Department of Basic Education instructed public schools to accept and promote all grade 7 to 9 pupils who obtained 20% in mathematics. The department told schools to bypass the requirements of the national curriculum. The concern is that pupils were passing all other subjects but failed mathematics, which is a compulsory subject to pass. The department, however, stipulated a condition for the promotion. Those eligible for promotion must obtain a 60% pass mark in their vernacular language.
Before 2014, passing maths was not a requirement for progression to the next grade. What we've actually done in the new curriculum is we've raised the pass criteria. So as I'm sure you're aware, we implemented the new the CAPS curriculum completely in 2014. And what that means is that in order to pass the year, in that senior phase, which we're talking about, so that's grade 7, 8, and 9, you need to pass your home language by 50%. In the past, it was only 40%, and you need to pass maths by 40%. We've decided that after hearing the complaints of teachers and the complaints of the provinces with regards to this pass criteria, we are busy in the process of reviewing the policy for the pass criteria. And while that review is underway, we have decided that we will not let this cohort of learners basically be negatively affected by the decision that has been made to make the passing of maths compulsory. And so that's why we've taken the decision. If they pass, if they meet all the other pass criteria, and they pass maths with above 20%, we will condone them to the next grade.
My colleague Safani Jansen van Vieren takes us through the details as to why the Basic Education Department took this drastic step and also how the social media reacted to this decision.
The directive is actually as a result of the department fielding complaints about pupils being able to pass 6 subjects but not mathematics, and therefore they are not able to go to an FET college or grade 10. Now those who achieve a 20% pass in mathematics would progress to a higher grade. An education task team actually recommended several years ago that the pass rate of mathematics be increased to 40%, while other subjects pass rates is only at 30%. Well, let's take a look at some of the tweets that came in regards to the pass rate being dropped to 20%. Sharon Jacobson says 20% minimum pass rate for maths from grade 7 to 9 is unfair to learners. The next tweet coming in states that, are you kidding me? 20% is like cheating. Grade 7 to 9. Why kids nowadays can't learn simple maths? Matembu Mabutu says that without education, a nation perishes, as SA lowers the bar even further for learners to 20% in maths in grade 7 to 9 get promoted. And Nui states, our education system worries me, condoning grade 7 to 9 pupils who obtain 20% for maths. I know others aren't going to pursue maths, but nay. And then the last tweet we see coming in, so now they dropped grade 7 to 9 math pass mark to 20%. For what exactly? Is this dumb move gonna make a kid smarter? As you can see, people on Twitter are really reacting about this 20% pass rate being implemented in schools.
That's my colleague Stefani there with a breakdown and a social media reaction to the announcement by the Department of Basic Education to reduce the pass rate requirements to 20% for mathematics. And joining us on the line is Ntutuzo Nzomo, Deputy General Secretary for Equal Education. Graham Block is an education expert, and you at home, a third most rather important panelist. You can give us a call on 011-542-2186. Let's start with you, Ntutuzo. Your reaction from Equal Education, primarily what seems to be largely to public schools and not necessarily former Model C schools. How does this, or how will this impact on the quality of learners that the system will produce?
Thank you, Cindy, for that. I think there's been lots and lots of confusion regarding this from the public because of the lackness from the statement that the department had released, and many people were quite confused what it actually meant. And I was listening to the tweets that one of your reporters was actually reading. But, and also we've been learning or trying to understand what the department actually meant by this, the whole of today. And basically, we understand it to mean that the 20% policy will allow a learner in grade 7, 8, or 9 who has not passed maths but has passed all other subjects to proceed to the next grade rather than repeat the year. So some of the educational arguments that would favor such an approach include that at the end of grade 9, learners will choose between maths literacy and maths. And many of those who are promoted without having passed maths will not proceed with maths. Grades 8 and 9 are the grades where the differentiation of learners into these two NSC streams takes shape. It does not make sense to make a learner repeat a year if they've only failed maths and will not proceed with maths.
All right, but are you in agreement with that? Because we sit with a country where there are qualified graduates without employment based on the quality of their qualifications. And on top of that, this seems to be dumbing down the learners by merely not even investigating the reasons behind the high failure rate when it comes to mathematics. Question is, have the teachers been interrogated or their performance with regards to maths been tested, if the problem might lie with them?
Well, Cindy, this is quite tricky for us as equal education, and that's why we're still trying to understand this quite more. Because the reality is that when student teachers go to university or when they're in university preparing to go to schools, some of them don't do math because they know that it's one of their weaknesses. And you find that when they go to township schools and also rural schools, they face something which is quite different, where whether you did math or you didn't do math, they are forced to actually do math or to teach math, and this is mainly because of the demand within those schools. And secondly, if this goes true, like the department is saying so, this basically means that teachers who are in grade 9 will have lots of workload. So they have to deal with students that are able to understand the mathematics that is taught in grade 9, and also students that were condoned while they had passed mathematics or while they had received 20% for mathematics. And this means that whatever curriculum which was set by those teachers needs to actually be reviewed.
Let's invite Graham Block, educational expert. Graham, thanks so much for your time. You've always been an activist for educational reform, and particularly looking at the most vulnerable, poorest of the poor. Do you think that this is a good move from the education department, especially setting up children for failure? What if you don't have numeracy, the basics of understanding how mathematical concepts, the ability to analyze, if you don't have those skills, do you think these kids have a fighting chance?
I don't think I don't think you should drop standards ever, but I think you should be sympathetic to the kids, and they need to pass. They need to go on to grades 7 to 9. And I take my line from equal education always.
But I mean, again, it goes back to the performance measurement tools, Graham. Yeah, in terms of investigating thorough without making a blanket rule to say 20%. Previously, we know that the 33% pass mark rate backfired in that, students cannot progress now to higher learning education who've got their own set of criteria. So where will these kids go in a world that requires the ability to know numbers and numeracy?
I think you're absolutely right, Cindy. So I think you have to know literacy and numeracy. So I think that the kids struggle with other kids who will compete better.
Yeah, and Tutuzo, do you think the department is focusing more on the good report at the end of the year? Well, they announced the pass rates, etc., and as opposed to dealing with the roots of the problem as to why there are such low levels of students passing maths and science?
Cindy, the issue here is that the department is focusing on achievement and not actually identifying the problems that lead to failure. The reality, which has been raised by several educationalists, is that the foundation phase, that's where the problem lies, where learners do not get a proper education during that phase. It's either the teachers are not there to teach them, or the materials that are taught by the teacher are not adequate enough to equip learners for the other grades. And those are the issues that have been raised to the department, and they're not dealing with them, but they're looking for quick solutions to the problem.
Yeah, and I mean, this is obviously a generational problem going forward, the issue of intergenerational poverty. If one person in a family is the only star that can lift the community out of poverty to make something out of themselves, if they are required to at least have a basic minimum of 20% mathematics, what are their prospects in future of having a career that, that has longevity, that would be able to sustain them?
If we promote for a learner to reach 20%, while we inform them that they can still pass the other subjects, but for mathematics, the requirement is 20%. The consequences for the future is that learner, there's certain fields that they cannot enter, because in university it's a different story. Whether you receive 20% or 40% for courses in science, we know that the requirement is actually quite high. And on a yearly basis, we always speak about, maths and science as like a vocal point for the country, and we need to be focusing on that and investing more in making sure those two subjects are subjects that are promoted to many of the learners in South Africa.
All right, we have a caller, Siboleke in Pretoria. Thanks so much for calling. Good evening to you.
Yes, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. What's your question?
Yeah, I've just heard like this thing, and it's very scary and very worrisome. And I think now, like the way things are now that they are happening, I think our government is just interested in pushing the quantity rather than the quality. The challenge will be the minimum requirements at the university level, especially like to the to the qualification, like such as science and engineering. The minimum requirements is 60%. So, like, meaning that from the matric, we're going to have all the people that they are passed and qualifying, but they are not going to have access, like, to do, qualification, like such as engineering, medicine, and so on. I don't understand if ever there's a political will, like, to produce quality like students from our country. That is my concern. Thank you very much.
All right, Siboleke in Pretoria, you at home can do likewise on 011-542-2186. Graham, is this, are we producing functioning illiterates, to call it that for lack of a better phrase, that will ultimately be condemned to a life of obscurity, that will continue to struggle while we pursue the national imperative of an inclusive economy and a shared prosperity in the country? Do you think that we're producing functional illiterates, as it were?
Look, I think that numeracy is very important. So I think that we need to be sympathetic to the kids who can't do numeracy, and the teachers should rise up to the challenge.
The teachers should rise up to the... Yeah, sorry, Graham. Carry on.
No, I think we're producing kids who can't compete, who won't compete.
So what needs to be done, Tutuzo? You don't see a lot of civic organizations marching to Parliament or the union buildings in protest of these kind of decisions, because, again, this will impact largely on black children in distress, poorly resourced areas, townships and peri-urban areas, villages. I don't know what the impact of this will be on former Model C schools as public schools, but my gut tells me that this will impact again on the very people that are at the bottom of the food chain.
At the moment, we expect more information about this, and I'm sure you heard from my responses to your questions. It's not quite clear what stance we are taking as equal education, because we don't have the necessary information for us to decide what stance to take. But just to respond to a point that you were making about civil society marching about issues in basic education. I think there are many organizations that have done that, and we have been doing that a lot. When there's a policy which is about to be introduced, we actually march for it, but we don't march without the necessary information. And that's what we are hoping the department is going to do. They're going to release, the necessary information, the adequate information, so that the public understands what's happening. And we saw on Twitter is a clear example where people believe that this basically means that 20% will be regarded as a pass. Instead of, kids being expected to pass above 40%, but 20% will be like the pass for mathematics, which is not the reality. And civil society has the responsibility to explain that to the public, also with government. And it will only happen if government is on board to make sure that the information is available to us.
All right, just hold on the line there. Let's take a caller in Pretoria. It's Tembi, so hello to you. Good evening. And what's your comment or question?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good. I just wanted to comment, especially on the stance that the Department of Education is trying to convey on us. Because at first we know that the Department of Education is committed to promoting math and science. But then now when they say they downgrade the percentage from 40 to 20, are they trying to say that they acknowledge that the system is failing? Or are they trying to tell us that they admit that we can't, our kids especially, they are not passing well in math? So are they, in essence, I want to understand from DPE is, are they admitting failure of the education system or what?
All right, thanks so much, Tembi. So we'll put that to Graham. Is this indirectly a subliminal message from the department saying that, black kids are incapable of understanding the concept of maths, and therefore, just to feed them through the system, we must lower the bar?
Look, we live in a scientific world, but we should pass the kids and let them pass. Let them get on, but they're not getting the things that they want. They're not getting the numeracy they want, and they need to compete.
And I mean, those are the building blocks into that education enables you to perform later on in life. So the decisions that are taken now have got very dire ramifications in the lives of these pupils. We don't even know the numbers. And going further into higher levels of education, in getting into a career, it just limits your prospects when you haven't even started the race. What needs to happen now? I mean, what kind of action will you be taking, or is it just still at a consultation basis?
At the current moment, for us as Equal Education, we are trying to get more information regarding this before we take any action. We urge the Department of Basic Education to make information available to explain this properly and thoroughly. And also for them to remember some of the things which have been echoed by your callers, that the problem does not actually start in grade 7. The problem starts from foundation phase. And secondly, such changes which take place in education, as you have said, Cindy, affect what's going to happen to a child's future. Because whatever decisions which are taken now, if a grade 7 learner who's about to actually go to grade 8 next year, if they wanted to be a scientist or whatsoever, they might actually face difficulties, because they're going to be meeting a new system where the teacher has to actually multitask, two students at the current moment. The student that actually understands mathematics, and also the student that doesn't understand mathematics that well. And there's no clear-cut plan on what's going to happen to assist teachers who are in grade 8 and grade 9 to actually make sure that they're able to grapple with such a situation.
Yeah, and you made a very valid point that early childhood development should be getting more attention and resources, so that we don't deal with the symptoms, or rather with broken situations like these that will take us back in terms of what the country needs. But Kabelo, you are on the line. Thanks so much for holding. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, thank you.
All right, thanks. Actually, I was just shocked when I just searched it on the TV tonight. I see the pass mark on maths been down to 20%. My question is, where is this module worked before? Which country has it worked before? And is there any way the community can be, I mean that there be a survey so that the people on the ground can take part in this? Because it looks like it's just come as a surprise.
No, Kabelo, I get your point. And Graham and Tutuzo, for me, it's also the timing. There hasn't been an announcement that this is open for public scrutiny or discussion or debate. It seems that the department flouted its own national curriculum and requirements there to push the numbers so that, you know, there's a higher pass rate than the quality we have. Do you think there's the bridge of their own curriculum is in itself a red flag? And Tutuzo?
There should be, I agree with Kabelo completely. Like, there should be, you know, like public discussions on such issues. Because at the end of the day, the people who are affected by these are the parents of learners who have to go to these schools. And whatever changes that take place within the Department of Basic Education, they do affect, you know, a huge number, millions of learners who have to go to the public education sector and, you know, experience all of these things. And we only heard about it yesterday when the announcement was made, and I'm sure most of people who are in the education sector
okay, and Tutuzo, move around a little bit. We'll come back to you. Your line is getting dodgy or scratchy. Graham, you know, what do parents do that don't have the liberty or privilege of taking their children to Model C schools or even private schools that are dependent on the state for basic amenities and primarily education, which is key in shaping character, in your ability to survive in life. But if it's of an inferior quality, then that kind of education can be detrimental. As we stated, that, you know, you have minimum chances of accessing decent jobs, minimum chances of making it economically as well. Graham?
No, I think that they should compete with the teachers. They should get better at teaching, and that means put pressure on the teachers to teach better maths. Numeracy needs to be taught better.
And Tutuzo, I mean, there was also allegations around SADTU being, you know, essentially holding the Department of Education by the short and curly. The fact that they are ruling the roost in the department, and therefore there's no scrutiny as to what the quality of teaching happens there, the methodology used, whether teachers even go for refresher courses to understand that subject matters evolve. What is your view in that regard?
I'm sorry, Cindy, can you repeat your question?
No, I was just saying in terms of SADTU as the teachers' union, essentially governing the basic education space. Therefore, with the education department not being able to assess the quality of the teachers' ability to even teach.
That's just like a fallacious statement which is being made to actually run away from the realities that teachers face in Eastern Cape, in KZN, in Limpopo, in places that are really rural, and teachers that are even in urban areas, but actually have to teach in townships under severe conditions. We are diverting away from the real problems if we're going to target teachers and see them as the problem.
Okay, Henry. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
We shouldn't run away. We shouldn't run away if teachers are also adding to the problem.
Okay, sorry, your line is a bit distorted here in my earpiece, but let's go to Henny in PE. Hello, you in the Nelson Mandela Bay. Henny?
Hello, Cindy.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. I am, for the last 30 years, I've really tried to promote what I believe we should change the curriculum to address unemployment. So if we look at the English curriculum brought into South Africa in 1905, it was an industrial revolution in England. And mathematics and science was very important. In South Africa, we don't have houses and we don't have food. Yet our school measures intelligence of children with mathematics and science, where we should be able to be training children to plant food, to sow, to build houses, and this will address the huge unemployment issue we have in South Africa. So we really should not focus on a yardstick of intelligence with mathematics and science.
All right,
And
Henny,
this is the issue that we
you've
have.
certainly brought a refreshing angle to it, that, you know, we can't all be chasing to be a doctor or specialized skills like that, that perhaps what we really need are laborers. And Tutuzo, I'll give you that one just to quickly respond.
I do that, you know, learners do need to be equipped with the necessary skills to survive after they've finished their matric, whether they decide to go to university or not. But the point that I don't understand the caller quite well. I don't know whether he's implying that, you know, we should be introducing subjects that, like handy subjects or vocational subjects that will allow students to be able to do other things beyond the education system. I think the department is trying to introduce something like that, just that they have not explained it quite well, and they call it the third tier system, which will be done next year as a pilot project, and which already has many challenges of itself. And it's not a new concept that the caller is talking about. We all know that during apartheid, academic knowledge was seen as something that was accessible for white students, and the resources were made there for white students, while black students were allowed to access, the type of courses that the caller is talking about. And,
sorry, Tutuzo, I get you. About biblical studies and agriculture, I know what you mean, but we're fresh out of time. Thanks indeed. I'm going to have to end it there for now. It's something that we'll continue discussing, of course, as it impacts on the future of the country, which are young people. And Tutuzo Nzumo, Deputy General Secretary of Equal Education, and Graham Block, an education expert. And you at home, thanks for taking the trouble to call in. We'll be back after this.